So I wanted to pass it on to Eduardo. Eduardo is the Director of Membership and Communications for the DC-based nonprofit Roundtable. Prior to the Roundtable, he was at the Community Capacity Fund. Eduardo is very active in the community, serving on the boards of Catalytic Communities, Our Place, and Women Empowered Against Violence. In addition, he's a member of the Hispanics and Philanthropy, sorry, I'm having a problem with that, and the Latin American Studies Association. Eduardo, I really appreciate you joining us today.
Well, it's good to be on here, and let me use my time to frame a couple questions. First of all, let me say I work at the nonprofit Roundtable. That's about 200 nonprofits from around Greater Washington, D.C., grassroots groups with about 2 or 3 employees, like Loudon Cares, or others like Catholic Charities with almost 1,000 employees. And our membership includes groups like Goodwill of Greater D.C., that's what we're going to hear about later here today, foundations like the Meyer Foundation, and advocacy groups. But let me point to 4 questions to maybe help frame a little bit of this discussion. And I think that if I suggest any answers to these, I think they're really evolving answers. I think you'll probably hear a lot of answers throughout the panel with the panelists today. But the 4 questions I would pose that sort of in this arena is, one, doesn't directly relate to social media, but what's our new economic reality? What is the economic reality that we're in right now? The second question is, what's your organization's strategy? The third one is, what's the social in your media? And the fourth one is, how are you using it to define the future of your organization? So the economic reality, your organization's strategy, the social in your media, and the future of your organization. So the first question, what's the new economic reality? And at the Roundtable we've been saying for some time now, this is not an economic storm. This is climate change. This is not something that we're going to ride through. We're going to buckle up and sort of see you on the other side. The other side is going to look very, very different for nonprofits. There's probably going to be less people around the table, less nonprofits. There's probably going to be some mergers. There's going to be, as one of our Roundtable reports, is we're going to either have to thin the soup or shorten the line. But I think it's helpful to frame that in this context, that it's not an economic storm. This is something more significant. So how are we using these tools going forward? Not to sort of ride it out, but how is it going to take us to the other side of a transformed context? And in that way, it's kind of interesting because with the rise of social media, it's sort of a confluence between the rise of all of this at the same time that there's this climactic change, the order of climactic change is happening to nonprofits all around us. So that would be the question about what's our new economic reality. The second question, what does this mean for your organization? If we're talking about long-term resolution, long-term impact, then I think the question becomes, how are you using these tools now to impact your organization in 2011? Clearly, you're going to look for short-term outcomes, but what's the long-term focus? And one thing I would suggest is really long-term brand building, and I think we've got a couple examples coming up in the panelists here today. Facebook, for example, clearly has met critical mass. The questions I receive are mature. Should I have a cause page or a group page? And there's specific answers about that. There's a lot of creative contests going on. Whether it's a birthday or matching funds or events. And on the fundraising side, at least for my members, and I could stand corrected, I haven't heard anybody go on beyond maybe the $5,000 level. And that's a nice bit of resources, but probably those groups have also put in a good amount of time to get there. About 10% of the Roundtable's members, which again is about 200 universal, so about 20, are on Twitter. Relatively small fundraising impact probably, but a growing and a larger communications impact. And we had the Roundtable had a little fun with using Twitter on the screen with about 200 nonprofit leaders 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that was a bit of an experiment. We ran into some interesting things, but it was good to see the general familiarity around everybody. One of the things I ask when people ask me about experimenting is, how are you integrating all this back into your website? How familiar are you with the analytics behind many of these tools that then you can evaluate as you move forward with back to your organization as a whole. So economic reality, probably a little larger. What's the strategy for your organization? The third of the fourth questions, where's the social in this media? And maybe it's too obvious, but I think the strength of these tools are in the collaboration and the connections, not only with your concentric circles around your own organization, but with others. And I think the members of the Roundtable that have used this most effectively are those that have used this tools like this to make it a broader concentric circles with their peers. The contests that really take off oftentimes on some of these tools are ones that you're competing with other organizations. There's still quite a bit of learning. Andy Goodman out in the West Coast released a report a week or so ago. I don't want to. For me, he questioned the utility of webinars. Not that they're not useful, but that we have a little ways to go in some training and learning about how we can make them a little bit higher impact. So figuring out more about the collaboration and connections behind these tools is going to be key. Finally, defining your future in 2011 with these tools. A lot of this is unknown. I don't know. One of the questions that I read in an op-ed this last weekend was, did Twitter save the Iranian social movements, or did the Iranian social movement save Twitter? I think it clearly surprised BizStone and others at Twitter. But a lot of the impact is simply unknown, and I think that the people on this panel are going to have a lot of the interesting answers. Many of us are waiting for Google Wave. As I don't want to think of it as a panacea, but it sure seems like it's going to be offering a lot of tools. What's that next tool? How can we evaluate it? And I think a lot of that is through collaboration and connections. If your peer organization is got a good strong action on Twitter, then that's probably a good indication that you should consider it as well. And just trying to wrap up a couple of thoughts on this. What's going to make your organization different and open to investment? Not this summer necessarily, not this fall, but what's going to open up your organization to social investment, to monetary investment in 2010 and 2011? And I think that's the Roundtable members who have made the best use of these tools, I think, are thinking a little longer term than many are used to. So that's what I have. Just asking some of these questions.
Thanks, Eduardo. I couldn't agree with you more on a lot of what you said. Most especially that this is all a work in progress, including this webinar. Part of the reason why we wanted to do this webinar was so that we could start doing them, and that we could really talk to a group of folks who use them as a tool to develop our skills and to help you guys develop your skills in what is good and bad in doing all of this. A lot of this technology is evolving, and I really, what you say about time really resonates. None of this is quick in terms of a learning structure, nor are the answers so plain to see. I was thinking about what you said about, did Twitter make the Iranian Revolution, or did the Iranian Revolution make Twitter? And I think all that is very valid, and you bring a huge amount of knowledge to the table, and I appreciate you participating.